All right, here we go. Welcome in. What's today? Tuesday. Tell you what, if you like us, you've been iced in for a while, you kind of you lose track of what day it is. Of course, we got no complaints at where we live, and in Tupelo, we're all good. Hearts are going out to the folks in Northwest Mississippi, Oxford, all the way up to DeSoto County, Memphis area, folks over in the Delta, and some even south of there, throughout the western part of Mississippi, still dealing with ice and power outages and stuff like that. So we're good here and glad to be with you on a Tuesday in the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes. That's your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents. Like I said, glad to be with you. Stream only again today here on YouTube and Facebook and X. So, hey to you. The Country Please and text line is up and working as well. So, like if you're on the stream and you're online social media, but you don't want to comment there, maybe on the YouTube stream or on Facebook or on X, you'd rather just shoot me a text. You can do that. The text line's wide open. The number to text is 885-3776. 601 number, 885-3776. That's a 601 number. The Country Pleasing text line, Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It's the best. Told you what I did, yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago. For lunch, what would that have been, Sunday? For lunch, I cooked over an open flame one of those pineapple and pork bun-sized links of sausage. The Country Pleasing. Heated up a bun, had a sausage dog. And I put, I don't know what you do, but I put mustard and ketchup on it. Y'all do that? I think we talked about that one time. What do you put on a sausage dog? I put mustard and ketchup on mine. It was outstanding. It's got me wanting to do it again today. Denzel, hope you're doing well. On the Country Pleasing text line, he said it's hard to believe yesterday, 47 years ago, was the first episode of Dukes of Hazzard. And he said, talk about a great American TV show. Man, 47 years ago? Goodness. Yeah, I liked that show when I was a kid, and looking back on it, not to get into anything like super controversial, it had the old General Lee and the car. Didn't it have the Confederate flag on? And I mean, it was years before I even knew what that was. But when I was a little bitty fella, the only thing I knew is that you had Daisy, Uncle Jesse, and Bo and Luke, and jump in that car. I think, Denzel, you probably like me. The intro, the song, the jump in the car over a creek, and and then the course, the car chases and Boss Hog and all that kind of stuff. I just thought it was cool when I was a kid. And you get your little toy cars and go out in the yard and see if you could make them jump stuff. That's the kind of effect it had on me. But you're right. This was a good show, and I cannot believe it was 47 years ago when that show started. My man, Prince, all the way from the heart of Neshoba County, the Prince of Neshoba County, Prince Oil. You can get one of those Country Pleasing sausage dogs at your local Junction Deli. I got one that one day that we were there, right after the grand opening of the new Junction Deli, and the Chevron, fueled by Prince Oil Company there, just off I-55, Sowell Road, exit the Chevron on the east side of I-55 across from Gluckstadt. From Germantown High School. And, that particular day, I didn't put anything on it. But he says just mustard. Prince says just mustard on his sausage dog. I did mustard and ketchup, and I'm going to tell you, I'm glad I did it. That was really good. And most of the time, Philip, I just have not put anything on them. Really. Even when I've bought them at like a baseball game at State, I just get it and I don't put anything on it. I got one time and had slaw on it. That was really good. But this time I just had a hankering, I guess, if whatever that means. And I put mustard and ketchup on the sausage. It was pineapple and pork flavored sausage. Man, it was so good. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'll admit it. Prince says, you watch the Dukes because of Daisy. Admit it. Well, look, and I was just a little bitty fella. All right. So the show, according to Denzel and his timeline, Dukes of Hazzard started, aired their first episode 47 years ago. So I'd have been 2 years old when they aired the first one. But, them watching it up there as a kid, I was a little bitty fella. But I knew what let's just be honest with you, I knew what I was looking at. So Daisy was part of it. And the Jeep, Daisy's Jeep was really cool. Uncle Jesse was cool. That was a great show. Why don't you admit it, Prince? Aren't you older than me? See, you'd have been, you knew what you were. You knew what you were looking at too. Looking at Daisy. Yeah, it was a good show. 47 years ago. Is that right? Goodness. Let's see. On the country pleasing text line, Denzel said the Junction does something that's hardly seen anymore. If they see a lady pumping gas and they are by themselves, a worker will come out and pump the gas for them. Is that right? Is that done at all of them? Man, chivalry's not dead. That's what I'm talking about. Be a man. Step up. Help somebody. Do something for somebody. That's good to know. That is good to know. All right, look, we got some stuff to get into, including headlines, which is going to jump it off in a conversation about something I've been harping on for a while, and I can prove it. This is regarding rules and the way officials call it in college football now for years. One particular rule, and I can prove it with a YouTube video I posted several years ago. That was, I'm basically telling them, you need to do this. You got to do something about it. And we're finally here where they're maybe going to do something about it. I'll cover it right now in headlines.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world.
Good evening, and welcome to Eyewitness News.
Here's what's making news.
Headlines on the show brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by Illuminate Bank. Find them online at mortgagemanms.com, mortgagemanms.com. Anything mortgage related, buying, refinancing, that's where you want to go. Go see my man Went, his whole team. Went at mortgagemanms.com. No, Jared, just hang on. Jared on Facebook. He said something you've been harping on. Are we going to jump into a Tylenol moment? Maybe. Just stand by, Jared. Headline. According to Ross Dellinger at Yahoo, college football targeting rule could be headed for an overhaul. It's not going away, but it could be headed for an overhaul. Hallelujah. Where's the Tylenol? It's about time. Premise this way. During the national championship last week, one team played with the first half without a key defensive player. So you telling me, all right, again, the first line in Ross's story. During the national championship game last week, one team played the first half without a key defensive player. Well, so you're telling me it took the 2000, as it were, 25 at the end of the 25 season national championship game for there to be a first half targeting call that finally, is that what it took after years and years of obvious instances and examples that you need to tweak it? It finally took that in the title game, a first half targeting in the title game, for you to go, hey, maybe we ought to take a look at this. That's finally what it took. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. All right. I need to stop complaining and just be glad that they're looking at it. That player, by the way, was the corner for Miami, Xavier Lucas. They kicked him out of the game. All right. It cost him 15 yards. Actually, I guess it maybe was it the Ole Miss game? Anyway, it was a Miami game, one of these last two. All right. Got disqualified in the game. And then the carryover disqualification kept him from playing in the first half of the national title game. So it was against Ole Miss. Afterwards, Cristobal, head coach Miami, said it's unjust. So here we go. Steve Shaw, the national coordinator of officials and the NCAA's secretary rules editor, told Yahoo Sports last week, quote, we are going to be having a discussion on targeting. That needs to be an annual discussion, and it will be a focus discussion. Now, in terms of it, it's not on the chopping block. It's not a thing. They're not saying it's a deal where they could get rid of it. He went on to say that what targeting has driven in terms of player behavior change has been really good. The numbers reflect that in terms of getting your head out of the tackle, see what you hit. Maybe there's less neck injuries, head injuries, and concussions and that kind of thing. He says, but how can we continue this trend of taking out more of these hits we don't want in the game while being less punitive? Well, what does that mean? Less punitive. We'll get to some other headlines. We'll come back to it. You can tell me what you think. I'll tell you a little bit more about what's in this story here. But basically, let me tell you what I've been standing on for years now. You have the basketball example of flagrant 1, flagrant 2, right? You also, then if you extrapolate that to football and you go, targeting of all shapes and sizes happens. Some of it is really egregious, right? A receiver, over the middle, defenseless, has his arms up trying to catch it, crown of the helmet in the ear hole the other way, really dangerous. Blind side block that involves targeting. You don't see it. Defenseless player in that regard, all that kind of stuff. Crown of the helmet. You're trying to get it out. Sure. Penalty. Kick them out of the game, whatever. But then what we've seen is, because of the way it's worded, because it is a subjective thing, we've seen defenders, State has had it happen, Ole Miss, everybody's had it happen, where you're a linebacker, you're a safety or something, and you're merely coming forward to tackle a guy with the ball who's running at you. He's running your direction. Maybe he's getting hit, maybe he's not, but he's got momentum coming your direction. You're going to him, you got to tackle the guy with the ball, and some helmet-to-helmet contact happens. And a lot of times the offensive guy with the ball carrier is the one who ducks his head and lowers it, who leads in there with his head. And it's almost like, as a defender, in order to avoid that, you'd have to lean back and get run over on purpose, because going in to tackle the ball carrier, they whistle you for targeting, they throw you out of the game. It is absolutely asinine, and it has been from day one, that any interpretation of that rule and application of the call would kick a guy out of the game for tackling the guy with the ball who's headed at you. We're not talking about defenseless receiver getting ear hold going across the middle. It's not what we're talking about. We're not even talking about, he has his back turned, or an offensive guy who's stood up, who's going to the ground, and you spear him with the top. No, he's running. I'm supposed to tackle him, and it's merely the difference of me, as he's moving to me, I'm moving to him. The offensive guy is allowed to do this and lower his head and go in there head first. And me, the defensive guy, to avoid getting called for targeting because I'm on defense, I would actually have to lean back and just get run over, because anything moving in because of the position of his head, we're going to have helmet to helmet. They throw me out. A lot of words to say this. I've harped on it for years. You can penalize, throw a penalty, do a penalty box thing, but to kick somebody out of a game and then therefore in some cases have to sit out part of the next game for trying to tackle a guy who's running downhill with the ball is asinine. It's not within the spirit of the original targeting rule to begin with. So I'm glad that we're now in 2026. They're going to take a look at that. Maybe we get a targeting 1 and a targeting 2. Maybe that's a stipulation. But to get this far down the road and have not done it yet, to me, is a little bit irresponsible. All right. Here's your first headline with a little bit of a rant to go along with it. Y'all let me know what you think. Headline number 2, brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by 𝐌𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢 Bank. Duke quarterback Mensa and Duke have agreed to a settlement of their dispute that will clear the way for him to transfer to another school. Now, he is expected to transfer to Miami, it says. Duke officials have been suing him in Superior Court, Durham County, trying to prevent him from transferring and enforce the multi-year NIL contract that he signed with Duke. Source close to the situation said Duke's lawsuit was always about upholding a contract, adding that the school was also eager to move forward and not engage in a protracted legal battle with the student athletes. They're just trying to scare him to death and get this settlement. They did not release terms of the settlement, but they communicated that it felt the agreement suitably addressed the school's primary concerns. What does it even mean? He's probably going to wind up at Miami. We'll see how quick that happens. More legal stuff in the NCAA world. Headline number 3. The hearing on Alabama center, this is basketball now, Charles Bediaco's request for a preliminary injunction has been delayed because of weather issues, according to a court filing. That has resulted in his temporary restraining order being extended another 10 days. Now, this is what you need to know. Yesterday, the NCAA filed a motion asking the judge in this deal, who happens to be a big Alabama booster, to recuse himself from the case. The judge's name is James H. Roberts. He gave the initial restraining order. Now, because of weather, 10 more days, he's going to play some more for Alabama. And now the NCAA is saying, you really ought to recuse yourself from being a judge on this, because you're an Alabama booster giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and your wife is representing some of these people involved in the former Alabama basketball murder case. So it's a big fat mess. That's just the update on it. And those are your headlines, brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by 𝐷 Bank. Find them online, mortgagemanms.com. Kenny, don't call me Ken. He texted me on the Country Pleasing text line. He said, leaving the Delta to rescue my daughter, Emily, in Oxford. Well, listen, Kenny, number one, I'm with you. If your daughter is in Oxford and they're iced in and still doesn't have power and they're freezing and they can't eat, you get in there and get her somehow, some way. I would do the same thing. And then secondly, just be careful. I just hope you're safe and you're able to do that. I noticed where I live in Tupelo, which is about 50 miles east of there. Our high was supposed to get up today to like 41, and it was coming up quick. Like this morning when I first went out, it was 13 degrees. A little bit ago, it was 31. Like it was happening fast. And everything the sun was hitting, it was starting to make it drip. So a lot of those icicles on the trees facing east, your roof, the part that was facing east, hitting the sun in the morning, was starting to melt a little bit. So, maybe we're about to get some relief. I just don't know how long it'll take. I'm so inexperienced with all this ice stuff that, if it gets up to 41 with some sunshine today, how long does it take? Will it all melt today? Does it still take a while? That I don't know, but just please be careful. And good on you for doing it. All right. Hail State fan on YouTube. He said, I hope everyone's well. I wish I was with MSU women's golf team in Orlando where it's warmer. Hey, yeah, but didn't I see that they are isn't Florida fixing to get a big swoop of this bitter winter weather and cold air for the next few days, even there? I think I saw something about that. I'm going to tell you right now, and tell you what it says for Orlando. All right. It says Orlando today, 49 degrees with a high of 53. Oh, it's next week. Over the weekend. Sunday in Orlando, this Sunday, February the 1st, 46 is the high. It'll get down to 28 that night. Well, Saturday night, 31st, Saturday night in Orlando, it's getting down to 26. So they are going to get some cold air this weekend. But yeah, still, I mean, the next, all the way through this week, they've got highs in the 60s with sunshine. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. They got it better off. Brad commented on Facebook. They've called it on a running back in the NFL. Yeah, Elliott for the Cowboys. Yeah, the targeting. You know, I think that's probably something. I tell you what we'll do. We're gonna take a quick break here, away from sponsors, and when we come back, Brad, I'm gonna look at this a little bit more in depth. I just saw it before we started the live stream. It's a story at Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger, about some of the things that they may be talking about with this targeting rule. Any calling of it's going to be interpretation, but I would hope that that's one of them. You got to look at that. At the very least, Brad, if let's say here's a common occurrence. Running back, running a football, open field, off the edge or whatever, he's headed downhill. He's north and south. All his momentum's forward. Here comes defender, and they're on a collision course, right? And the defender has the job to tackle the ball carrier. All the stuff about see what you hit, keeping your head out, don't lead with the crown of your helmet, all that kind of stuff. Well, if the running back is downhill and goes in like this, so I'm the ball carrier, I lead with the crown of my helmet. No, we don't have a defenseless player, it's a defender, but that's sort of initiating a much more likely chance, that you're going to hit helmet to helmet when that running back does that. Okay. So let's say that you then get it, the helmet to helmet stuff. Everybody hollers, what about targeting? If you're going to, in that scenario, if you're going to call it on the defender, you also have to call it on the offense too. So the penalty part of it offsets. According to the rule, if you're really applying it the way it's written now, that the yardage would actually offset, but both players would be ejected from the game. You see what I mean? So something about it the whole time has needed to be looked at. And I don't know, again, why they have waited so long to look at it. I mean, because we're going on probably at least 10 years, maybe even a little more, of needing to adjust how you're applying it and in what scenarios you're throwing people out of the game. Maybe we're about to get that. All right, we'll talk about it next, a little more in depth, what's in that story with you when we come back. Back after this in the Bureau.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Farm Bureau Insurance in Mississippi, local agents in all 82 counties. So here's what that means. You have that fender bender, hopefully you don't, but let's say you do at an odd time. Something goes on. It's Saturday night at 11 p.m. You don't have to wait until Monday morning to call some 800 number and talk to someone 3 states away. You've got your agent's phone number right there on your phone because you go to church with him. Your kids go to school together. He lives right down the road. You see each other at the ball games on Friday nights. So it's personal with your local Farm Bureau insurance agent in all 82 counties in this entire state. And if anything does arise and you need to, run it up the chain or up the flagpole, the home offices for Farm Bureau Insurance are in Jackson, Mississippi. It's right here in the state of Mississippi. It doesn't get more local than and personal, the service that you get with Farm Bureau Insurance in Mississippi. I can't recommend them highly enough. And if you haven't, recently, let them give you a quote. Home, life, auto. It's Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Well, look at what we have here. Christmas come early. Boom. Little green onion country pleasing. That's not all. Little original smoked sausage flavor. That's not all. Jalapeno and cheddar. It has to be one of my favorite, just judging by how much of that stuff I eat. Oh, can't forget. Andouille. Don't be saying andouille, it's andouille. And last, but not least, pork and pineapple. Bun size, 3 links, bun size. Look at that right there. Be careful. Come on with it. All right, back with you. Staying connected to you because of C Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. Check them out at cspire.com. Yeah, that is true. Gene said another cold weekend coming up. What are the temps we're supposed to get? I was looking at Orlando because even Florida, parts of Florida are getting cold air this coming weekend. So we may be on the back end of it. Let's see, like I said, today where I live in North Mississippi, we're finally getting up above freezing. Last night it got down to 10 degrees or something. It was 13 when I woke up this morning. Every night for the next several nights, it's still getting down below freezing, but at least today, tomorrow, Thursday in North Mississippi, we're highs up around 40 or above 40. But yeah, you're right, Gene. So this Saturday in my hometown of Tupelo, this Saturday, the 31st, we're supposed to have a high of 27, a low of 14 that night. Sunday, a high of 35, low 24, and then it starts warming back up a little bit with rain coming up in that first week of February. But a little more cold air coming our way. All right, so on the targeting deal, let me give you some more info. If you want to go read that story, Ross Dellinger wrote it at Yahoo. And the story says this: when exploring the penalty structure this offseason, officials must determine if the disqualification and then the carryover disqualification, if you did it in the second half, you carry it over to the next week. They got to determine if that is still warranted. Could rules officials create 2 different levels of targeting fouls similar to flagrant fouls in basketball? I mean, maybe it's not even fair to the people that are involved in it now to holler at them and go, well, what took you so long? You know, maybe that's not fair because they are at least willing to sit down and talk about the idea of like basketball, like the flagrant 1, flagrant 2, have a targeting 1 and a targeting 2. At least they're willing to talk about it. That's a step in the right direction. Probably shouldn't yell at them for taking so long. By the way, as I pour some hot coffee from High Point Roasters in New Albany, Mississippi in my mug, a tip of the cap and a loud happy birthday to Dan the Coffee Man. Dan the Coffee Man from New Albany, who he dreamed up High Point Roasters coffee years and years ago. It's the oldest coffee roasters in Mississippi that I know of. So Dan Skinner, Dan the Coffee Man, wherever you are, happy birthday and Hail State. And I know you're looking forward to baseball season. I'll be here soon. Okay. So on the idea that they might discuss having 2 levels of targeting penalties, like basketball, flagrant 1, flagrant 2, A more severe targeting penalty, lowering the crown of the helmet into an opposing player's helmet, for instance, could warrant the penalty yardage plus disqualification. But a less severe penalty, like the one from the Miami player against the Ole Miss receiver, which was shoulder into his helmet, that might mean only penalty yardage. So 15-yard penalty, but you get to stay in the game. I'm looking at it here. This story gave you a nice little video of it here. Yeah. So it was Lee, the receiver for Ole Miss. He caught one against Miami. I'm actually seeing it the first time. I didn't see the game. I never saw it yet. Caught it, turned around, step or two, going to the ground. Kid from Miami does go in there with his head lowered, but it was actually his shoulder that kind of hit the receiver high. And they kicked him out of the game for that. Yeah, I mean, that's a great example of one of those where, you know, it's certainly not as egregious as a lot of the stuff you see. It's certainly not ball is in the air, his hands are extended trying to make a catch and getting ear hold, and he didn't see it, like Auburn did to Woody Marks back in about 21, somewhere in there. This one not as egregious. And like I said, you know, there's a ball carrier. Certainly on handoff plays. I've even argued in the past that, you know, you could take a step in the right direction towards finding the happy spot on this targeting rule and implementing your rule by start right there. Go, it's going to be a more egregious. Well, no, let me back up. Start right there by separating it. If it has been a handoff, I mean, think about it. So, the article pointed out that in 2020, it was sort of the peak of the targeting calls. 1 in 4, I think. And I think they said this year it was like 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 was the number of targeting calls, not as many. But, you know, most of those, even this year, I guarantee you, most of those targeting calls have been on pass plays. I guarantee you, most of that's been on pass plays. I'm not even looking it up. And I guarantee you, most of it over the years has been on pass plays. And I was always like, you know, you could separate it very easily and go on a play where there's a handoff. And we're going to treat the same thing, the little speed sweep where we're tossing it forward to avoid having to hand it and slow him down. So, you know, the speed motion, catch, toss it forward. I just catch it midair. It's like a handoff. Those kinds of things, to me, it's like you could go plays where the ball's been handed off are going to be treated a little bit differently than some of these throws. Because in those instances, immediately, you got a guy who's a ball carrier with the football trying his best to run downhill north and south in the direction of the defense. So if I'm trying to tackle the ball carrier, you could easily talk about it, work on it, have language in the rule for officials to differentiate in those scenarios. Even right down to, you know, is it a ball carrier who's already, being tackled by a defender? And then there's helmet to helmet. Well, he's classic defenseless then because his arms are tied up and he's, you know, in contact with another. If he's being stood up or if he's being tackled, and then we get the lowering the head and that sort of thing. Well, you could easily do some of that. I just have seen way too many times. And if you're a State fan, you can probably call them out. You know, I remember Errol Thompson in that Missouri game that year, and that might have been actually 2020. It was like maybe the first series of the game. They threw a screen pass to a tight end. Okay, Missouri did, who he catches it, turns around and runs a step or two. And here he comes, and there goes Errol Thompson in there, and they weren't even both lowered into each other. They just hit kind of like face to face. they called targeting on Thompson and threw him out of the game. And this is a deal where the kid's got the ball running right at him. He made a great tackle. You cannot throw people out of a game for that. Not and actually have sort of a fair and level playing field for offensive and defensive players. And it looks like that's kind of the thing that they're, at least willing to take a look at here. What else you got? Oh, the faking the injuries thing. They put an update in here on this. They said all the college executives and the coordinator of officials, Steve Shaw, they were all pleased with the new rule intended to prevent faking injuries. They put it in place this year. They would charge a team with a timeout if a player dropped with an injury after the ball was spotted for play. They liked how that went. So that's good. That'll stick around. The targeting thing. They've got to split it up, in my opinion. Pretty clear to see. If you have egregious launching at the head with the crown of a helmet, defenseless player, it could be a ball carrier who's wrapped up, being taken to the ground, who stood up by other defenders. Differentiate that. But also differentiate if you have an offensive player who is the ball carrier, who's making forward yardage, forward progress, and is not being tackled by, somebody else and is not defenseless and because his arms are constrained. You may call targeting. If you have a kid, you don't like how he lowers his head to go make the tackle, you're still trying to keep that out of the game. Fine, throw the 15-yard penalty. Go ahead and do it. But you can't kick a defensive player out of the game for trying to tackle the guy with the ball. You just can't do it. You can't kick him out of the game for that. At the very least, you could take the part out where if that happens in the second half of the game, ball carrier headed downhill, defensive player goes in, you don't like the way he lowers his head. At the very least, if you're going to kick him out of the second half, you can't, for tackling the guy with the ball, you can't keep him out of the game next week. They got to do something about that to make it, make a little more sense. So at least they're going to take a look at it, I think. At least that's the way I look at it. All right. What do you think? Let me know. Comment on the live stream. All you got to do is type in a comment there from YouTube or Facebook, X. All you have to do is type in a comment, post it. It pops up on the screen and I can see it right here. And then when I see it, I click it and it pops up on the screen for everybody else to see. So it's a good way to be a part of the conversation on a day like this, where hopefully we're going to be back to the normal full show, including live radio tomorrow. That's the plan, to get Beeve back. He's still doing a few things, having a checkup today. He's doing better, which is great. Been thinking about him. Y'all continue to think about him. Pray for him that he'll be fine and dandy and ready to go. And so, yeah, feel free to comment. We'll get you in here on the other side of the break. Stick around.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
The Junction Deli's Convenience Redefined and Prince Oil Company, a match made in heaven. The Junction Deli, fueled by Prince Oil Company. Prince Oil Company has been fueling Central Mississippi since 1960. It's a pretty good little while. Wonderful people. Man, am I ever more tickled that they're a part of the show and I'm a part of their team now. As you know, if you've listened to the radio show, I've been to the Junction in several different places around the state. I've bought gas just like you at a lot of places that are fueled by Prince Oil Company, and they are really wonderful people. By the way, that brand spanking new Junction Deli, Chevron, right across the highway from Germantown High School. It's in Canton. We say Gluckstadt. Do you realize they and other Junction Delis, they serve country pleasing sausage over there on the buffet? They don't get much better than that. The Junction and Prince Oil Company. That's what I'm talking about. We'll be right back after this message from C Spire. My name is Matt Wyatt. I host the Matt Wyatt radio show out of my home using C Spire fiber.
And when we hit the road as a family, Matt's show goes with us, thanks to C Spire Wireless.
Its ultra-reliable nationwide network lets me broadcast live from anywhere.
And never miss a moment that matters.
Connecting you to what inspires you most on C Spire's blazing fast 5G network. And right now, get your choice of free phone. That's customer inspired. That's C Spire.
Welcome to my photography studio downtown Tupelo. Everybody needs a headshot, especially if you're in the professional world, in sales, any sort of customer related business, outreach business, anything like that. Everybody needs a headshot. Here at my photography studio in Tupelo, we do a lot more than just headshots, but we're kind of focusing on headshots for that very reason, because everybody needs it. Let me show you a little something about it. One thing I'm able to do here is sort of have 2 to 3 different looks in a small space that we can do in a short amount of time. Several different looks and styles of lighting with studio equipment, studio lighting. Some with flash and a particular look that I've worked on, a constant lighting scenario where you sit down, the lights are already on, you lean in, and we kind of illuminate the whole face. And we get several options in the studio in a short amount of time. Here's 2 priorities for me when I shoot headshots. One is it has to look like you. Okay, none of this fake stuff. The other goal is it's got to look like you at your best. And that's my job as a photographer. And I've got a lot of experience over the years, and I feel really confident I can do that for you. I would love to schedule a session for you here at the studio in downtown Tupelo. I'm above the Reed's Gift Shop, just off of Troy Street, the corner of Troy and Spring. If you can't get to Tupelo, that's okay. Let's talk about it, because we can pack the studio up and come to you if the schedules fit and that sort of thing. I'd love to help you with your headshots. I think everybody needs them. I'm inviting you to please email me, reach out. You can go to my website, mattwyattmedia.com, email address matt@mattwyattmedia.com, and let's talk about your headshot. Farm Bureau Insurance in Mississippi.
Baseball. All right, back with you. Get on in here. We'll spend a little more time together here today and then get back to normal tomorrow. Let's see. Where are we? Jared commented on Facebook, said, bring back headhunters and blindside blocks. I mean, and that is the way it used to be for sure, right? Jared, have you had the experience I've had where every now and then it could be like a classic game or something that pops up on YouTube, from the 80s or 90s or, some NFL classic films thing, and you watch it now and you go, man, I almost forgot how different it was, how much more physical and actually dangerous it really used to be. I mean, the game is fast and physical, but really not at all as physical as it used to be. Bulldog, Mississippi says you can't see the comments on there, so I don't know what that would be. But I don't know if it's on your end or on YouTube's end or what, but we've been blowing and going since about noon or so. Hey, here's the reason I'm playing the baseball theme for you, or take me after the ball game. I don't know if you realize this, but we are just a little over a month away from something I caught a couple of years ago and loved it, the World Baseball Classic. Did you watch it? Have you ever watched it? The World Baseball Classic? I always get a little confused as to how often they have it. Is it every 2 years or 3 years or 4 years like the Olympics? How often do they have the world? You hear me typing it? That's what I'm doing. Every 4 years. So it's like the Olympics. Every 4 years, it says. Well, that didn't make any sense. I guess it got off schedule because of COVID, right? That's not right. It's not every 4 years. It's every 3 years. 2006, 2009, 2013. That was 4. 2017, but then they did it again in 20. Okay, so they used to do it every 3, Now they're doing it every 4 years. But why are they doing it this year if they had one in 23? There was a 4-year gap in the World Baseball Classic from 09 to 13, and then from 13 to 17, and 17. So that's somehow it got pushed back to 23. So now they're getting back on schedule. I guess that's what it is. Anyhow, finally it's rolled back around. So the last time you did have it, that when I caught it, that would have been back around 23. And I didn't know, much about it, had not really followed it, hadn't watched much. And what I found is I would get up early in the mornings, like I always do, be up, in the wee hours, 4 a.m., 4:30. And during parts of that schedule on MLB Network where they were carrying it on television, you'd be watching some game that's going on live at night in some other part of the world, whether it be in Korea or somewhere else. And a lot of the teams, these international teams, have players from major league teams. I'm just saying, I loved it. Last time I watched it, I loved it. Watching the crowds and, the way they interact with the teams, and it's coming back around, and it starts in just a little over a month. So March the 5th, that's what I'm seeing. March the 5th? No. Hang on a second. Now let's look at the schedule so we know exactly when it is. There was always a little bit of angst with the major league teams, right? Because, you don't want your stars doing, you don't want them getting, ready to play for you if you're the Braves or the Yankees and not necessarily their country. Okay. So some exhibitions on the 3rd and the 4th. And then pool play beginning on the 4th and the 5th of March. Goes all the way through the 11th. And so here are your venues like San Juan, Puerto Rico. That's Pool A. Hiram Bithorn Stadium. Houston, Texas. Dalkin Park, Houston, Texas. That's Pool B. Tokyo, Japan, and the Tokyo Dome. Pool C. And then Lone Depot Park in Miami, Florida. Pool A, Cuba, Panama, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Canada, and that's it. Pool B is going to be Mexico, Great Britain, United States, Brazil, and Italy. And I think they'll play in Houston. Pool C is going to be Chinese Taipei, Australia, Czechia, Korea, and Japan. And then Pool D is going to be the Netherlands, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, and Israel. And those are your 4 pools that are a part of this. It starts on March 5th. Anyway, looking forward to it. Put it on the calendar because I will talk about it. I'll get up in the early mornings. Man, look, for whatever this means about me, maybe it's weird, maybe it's not, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I don't know. But the fact is, I cannot stay up late watching sports, even when I'm interested. I have to really fight it going to sleep. That NFL game the other night, I was fighting it, having to stand up in front of TV and slap myself, stay awake because I wanted to see what was happening. Otherwise, I go to sleep. It's a whole lot easier to watch stuff in the mornings. So, you got a full stadium over there in Tokyo, Japan, full to the brim, and it's loud, and they're playing, it's live, and it's happening right there. And I'm watching whoever it is in Pool C. Maybe it's, Chinese Taipei in Australia, and I can eat my breakfast at 5 a.m. and watch them play. I'm into it. So I'll be talking about it when that rolls around. Just a little over a month. Yeah. All right. So back on the subject with Jared of how physical the game used to be in the NFL. You know, he said, bring back the headhunters and the blindside blocks. He said he saw some pro games in the 70s where receivers was just getting murdered downfield by corners and safeties. And they were, you know, you could watch the NFL films packages on the old Raiders teams and the Steelers, you know, the steel curtain defense and stuff. And there's lots of highlights of that was kind of the thing back then. It was totally allowed and legal. Receivers coming across the middle were fair game. You were going to get clotheslined and hurt. And that was the threat. If you're willing to come across there and catch the ball, fine. But the way we defend it is you can come across there, but we're going to try to injure you. And that's the way they played. They made a reputation off of it. He said, I love for the blindside block highlights from the 2010 Egg Bowl and the 11 Gator Bowl. You had it. So let me think if I can think like you. All right, Jared. So 2010 Egg, who would that have been? There was a couple of plays, right, where you had Ladarius Perkins. But I know also there was one where Perkins got loose in the bowl game, the Gator Bowl against Michigan, and he's got a defender trailing him, and somebody comes out of nowhere and just decleats the guy on a block, blindside block. That's right. Sven said it. Dick Butkus would be in jail today for attempted murder. So many of those guys, you know, the defensive backs and the safeties, and who was the big, ought to be ashamed for not remembering his name right off the top of my head here, but the big linebacker for the Steelers teams where he only had like 2 teeth. What was his name? Lambert, Jack Lambert for the Steelers. And again, you know, the safety for the Raiders, some of those, even in the 80s, like Lawrence Taylor, Steve Atwater for the Broncos during that time. Yeah, they would be. That's right, Lambert. Yeah, I think they were both screenplays. I do remember. I don't remember, though, Jared. It's like I can remember Perkins running the ball, but I don't remember who delivered the blocks. Makes me want to go back and watch it again. Yeah, Hail State fan. It's kind of what I was talking about. He said, as a lifelong Astros fan, I'm not a fan of the World Baseball Classic. Altuve's injury in 2023 WBC caused him to miss 43 games. Yeah, I know. And that's the worry. But again, it happens so rarely, and it is such a neat thing. I mean, it really is. I get it, though. You're right. Ronnie Lott should have brought him up. Mike Singletary. They scared a lot of people. It was a part of the game. It's kind of how they, back in those days, again, it was kind of part of the way they defended offenses. They were vulnerable to slants and crossing routes in the middle, the way they used to play those defenses before the kind of the Tampa 2 thing came along. And then some of the unnecessary roughness rules came along. And that was sort of the vulnerability for them was in particular in the middle of the field, beyond linebacker depth. So some of those crossing routes. And so they were like, well, we're going to defend it this way, is if you do complete it in there, you have to make them regret it. You have to make them not come in there. And the way you do that is you see if you can break their neck. I mean, that's kind of how go back and watch the highlights. Intentionally clotheslining guy. It was so much more brutal. Yeah, that's it, Gene. Junior Seau, he was another one of those. Sven said the last real ones were the Legion of Doom by the Seahawks, Bobby Wagner, Thompson, these crazy guys. Wagner was pretty incredible. Ed Reed for the Ravens. You know, Reed for the Ravens, he had the reputation. And in that time while he was playing, you bring this conversation up and everybody talk about Ed Reed. Of course, he's a great player. Really intelligent player, really smart. He knew what they were running, but he was that way too on stuff in the middle. Harrison for the Patriots got that. All the while in the kind of that same era, Wagner you're exactly right. He's the same way for the Seahawks, but nobody talked about him as much. I don't know if it's because he was in Seattle or what, but they just didn't, you know, he didn't get thrown into those conversations as often, but he should have been. Yeah, I don't know if y'all saw this, but talking about Jack Lambert, I won't be able to quote it exactly. I was reading part of an interview that John Elway gave about the first time that he played against Lambert. I thought it was who he said, Lambert for the Steelers. And yeah, he said he lined up across from him, and the guy has this crazy look in his eyes and he has no teeth. And he's like literally drooling, like it's coming out of his mouth and everything. and Elway said he thought to himself, man, just get me out of here. Get me out of here. I'll go back and get that finance degree and I don't have to deal with this. a whole different kind of game back then for sure. Unnamed texter who's watching the stream said Darryl Talley with the Bills, big time. No doubt. Hey, all right, and I'll leave you with this. Speaking of the Bills, it made me think of it. This morning, I was thinking about a guy who I was fortunate enough to get to play a couple of years with at State. Greg Favors. Y'all remember Greg Favors? Was a senior at State in 97. From Atlanta, was a pass rusher, kind of edge rusher type linebacker at State, and was the same kind of player, edge rusher and linebacker in the NFL for about 8 years for like the Chiefs, the Titans, the Panthers, the Jaguars, and maybe one other. But anyway, I was thinking about Greg. Greg Favors was on the Titans. He was actually a starting, linebacker edge player for the Titans in 2000 when they had the Music City Miracle against, I believe it was Buffalo. And Talley would have been done by then, wouldn't he? He was done by 2000. Like he wouldn't play. Anyway, but you said him with the Bills. It made me think about, I saw it this morning, the Music City Miracle, where right at the end and do the kick return and Wycheck throws it back over here to Dyson. Well, if you go back and watch that, Music City Miracle, playoffs, 2000. If you go back and watch that, he is Greg Favors is on the play when Wycheck throws it back to Dyson. Here he goes up the sideline. About halfway into it, you'll look and you'll see number 51, Greg Favors, former Mississippi State Bulldog, was sort of his lead blocker and escort right on into the end zone there. He was in on that. Looked it up, and that year, Greg had 5.5 sacks that year for the Titans and was a starter throughout the year. They were a playoff team, lost to the Ravens in the playoffs. And I looked up another thing that I didn't realize it. To this day, Greg Favors still holds the record for the most sacks in a single game by a Mississippi State player. And it was the 96 Egg Bowl in Oxford. It was a muddy, wet, rainy game. And Greg had 5.5 sacks in that game. I don't know what the record is for Ole Miss on theirs, if they've ever had a guy, a single player with more than that. But for State, Greg Favors, the 96 Egg Bowl, 5.5 sacks. It's the most that any Mississippi State player has ever had in a single game. He still holds that record today. Greg was a heck of a player now. 8 years in the NFL, drafted in the 4th round to the Chiefs. And he was there maybe 1 year and then went to Tennessee in year 2 and stayed with them for a while. Really good player, became a starter. Yeah. Even, I want to say Greg had a year with the Jaguars later in his career, maybe around 05, 04, 05. I think it was Jacksonville, where he had another year where he had 5 sacks in a year and played in all the games and stuff. So really good player. All right, Jared, I'm going to read yours and then get on out of here. Jared on Facebook says, me and an Auburn grad got into it earlier about the 99 game. He swore it was 98. I'm like, took a safety. Matt threw a touchdown pass to Matt Butler, threw 2 defenders in 99. I'll bet my entire house on it. He yielded. Yeah, it was 99. It was 99. You know, and we won. What did we win in those years against Auburn? Let's see. They beat us in 96, but we beat them in 97, 98, 99. Might have beat them in 2002. So it was either 3 or 4 in a row. Jared. Okay. And he says, oh, I got you. So it was a clarification. He yielded. Yeah. It was 98. I don't remember much about the 98 Auburn game. I want to say it was not much of a contest. I think we beat them pretty good, but I don't remember. Just telling you, there's big swaths of stuff that I don't remember. I should. I certainly remember the 99 though. How could you forget that one? And I think, I don't want to talk out of turn on this and be wrong, but I think if you were to look it up, I think it is still the largest comeback in state history under 3 minutes left in the ball game. Like the largest deficit overcome in the fourth quarter to win with less than 3 minutes left in the ball game. There might have been a couple other games that if you look at the whole fourth quarter, there were some larger deficits overcome and that kind of thing. I think it still stands. Yeah, Jared said beat them in 2000. So 4 in a row. You know, you look back those years, man, it was something. We had 3 straight wins over Alabama in 96, 97, 98. We had 3 straight over Auburn, or 4 straight, 97, 98, 99, 2000. I know there was 3 out of 4 years in the Egg Bowl. So 96, 98, 99. Who won the 2000 Egg Bowl? Did State? Did Wayne and them win the 2000 Egg Bowl in Oxford? Because if that's the case, that would have been 3 in a row then. I could look it up. But anyway, you're talking about a stretch of just, in terms of against the Western Division teams, State was winning on a regular basis year after year. Hard to find another stretch where it was really like that. All right, y'all. Listen, I appreciate you being here today for another live stream. I actually, just a minute ago, I had a missed call from Beaver, so I'll check up with him, see how his checkup went today. Hopefully we can get back on the air tomorrow on live radio, and I'll let you know. Tune in on social media. I'll send out a tweet and let you know. But regardless, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. C Spire helping us stay connected on the live stream and being able to connect with you this way. Beauty of technology. So again, for all of us here, I'm getting Beaver back. Myself, thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next one.